Hey everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Izlo33, welcoming you back to the Anarchy Analysis series. We're live once again for summer, as we've got 15 games on our docket for the opening weekend's action. Some big games, some juicy games, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's get straight into these predictions. Our matchup of the week kicks off this video. It's Carmine Corp versus Fnatic. It rounds out day number 1 of all things. And this is an interesting one, because Carmine Corp are coming into this split a completely new roster, shall we say. They've kept the bot lane, which is arguably one of the sticking points that I have for this team being below par. But as a whole, they've brought in ERL players who are stepping up, getting promoted, as well as former LCK All-Pro, I believe he won. He also has done well winning the LCK outright in Kana. This team has stepped up in quality. They've got Closer coming back as well. He's a regional champion in the LCS, I believe. But as a whole, this team screams of talent alongside some new blood. But again, there's this thing with European super teams and them not working out. And this team screams of that more than anything. And I think you've got to give a lot of pointers towards that bot side. Staying the same throughout this entire year. It's arguably one of their weaker sides. Top was an issue, don't get me wrong. But the rest of the map, bit of a yikes outright in that bot lane as well. And I think that is certainly going to play a big factor in this matchup, because they're going against arguably the best bot lane in Europe that isn't technically European. It is Jun and Noah for Fnatic, who, this is my focus point, is that bot lane matchup. The sticking points between these two teams throughout this year. And I think that Jun had a phenomenal spring split. Came in, dominated in the support role, something you don't technically see too often. I'm pretty sure he got an award for it. Don't know. Don't ask me on that, because I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, it's still a very solid Fnatic squad, all things considered. Fresh off of MSI, so they've had practice against international competitors. It's a solid squad, to be honest. And I'm looking at them to do exceptionally well here, which is kind of why I've predicted him as my Anarchy Analysis Matchup of the Week winner. And to be honest, you've got to think that the way Razork will target the bot side of the map, again, we're coming into a fresh mid-season patch, brings in new items, gets rid of some of the other items that were maybe a bit broken. I'm looking at you, Static Shiv, from the start of the year. But to be honest, it's a worthwhile change. It's going to shake up the meta, and teams will have to adapt, and adapt quite quickly, because it's a 3-week split yet again, and then into playoffs in the build-up to season finals. And believe it or not, Carmine Corp need to do well this split if they want to make it to season finals, because right now, 1 10th place finish in their first split in the league. 2 10th place finishes in their second split in the league. Will it be 3 in a row? With this quality lineup, you don't want that to be true. You kind of expect to maybe 4th, 3rd with the quality of player. But again, you think about the players, communication's going to be a bit of an issue. You've got a Korean in the top lane who's not used to the LEC style. You've got players coming back, getting accustomed to the stage in Europe, and then the bot side being a bit of a issue, maybe still. Only time will tell. Regardless of that, you kind of understand why I go Fnatic, the solid team that stuck together throughout the year, who arguably have looked best, if not second best, in this league all year long. So that's kind of why I've had to go with them over Carmine Corp. So let's get into technically the first game of day 1, but we've kind of covered the last game first. It's time for Giant X versus Team Heretics to kick us off. And to be honest, Heretics have stayed the same. Obviously, the team we thought about as a whole was not gonna stay the same, considering kind of a poor performance during playoffs. But again, this team made drastic changes and did well in the regular split of spring, and probably are looking to continue that form. Now, I personally am not a big advocate of making the change of perks out with the Jaggies, because it feels like there's no real difference there. Maybe it's a renewed energy to try harder, but Trimby coming in was a big change up that kind of cemented that bot lane more than anything, and that is something that Heretics needed alongside Flakkid to provide a bit more strength, a bit more cohesion to get the ball rolling and going for this Heretics squad, who arguably did struggle in winter, and now coming into summer, they're on a warpath to try and make top 6 for season finals. Their opponents, on the other hand, are Giant X, who barely scraped into playoffs last split and the split before, coming down to last day games in both cases in order to make it. And to be honest with you, I think that if we look at this team, the changes they've made are weird. I don't like what they've done. Sure, some of these players deserve the opportunity to perform, but Odawane being dropped is a big one. I don't remember who was Giant X's jungler. Peach. That was it. I mean, I didn't rate him in his opening few games for the team, but he stayed strong. Performed quite well, but nah. He's been dropped, and in comes Juhan and the Antonio. The Antonio, an ERL top laner who didn't play in 2023, and I don't think he's got any games in 2024 in pro. May be wrong, someone may correct me, but his record online says that he has, well, he was signed, he was playing for Giant X in 2023, 2024. His last performances were the LVP, but he missed an entire split. It is what it is. So, Juhan, we get to the other juicy point. A literal world champion. DRX's sub-jungler, who did make some performances for them during, I believe, Worlds he played a few games, as well as he definitely played in the LCK. Honestly, the guy came in and is coming in with some hype around him. Fair enough. Inexperienced, arguably, but he's coming into a league that's kind of filled with new blood, new fresh faces that are also trying to find their way. So, who knows? I feel like he's probably a one and done sort of player in terms of splits, but it is what it is. I think that he'll probably bring some life to the squad. However, it's going to take some time to get used to, especially losing such a vocal member as well as rocking that top lane. This roster's going to have a drastic change up in communication and leadership in order to rise up. And I think that Team Heretics, who've kept the squad the same since spring, a lot stronger, a lot better, more cohesive, and will more likely win this game, which is why I've gone with them. Our third game this video is Rogue versus SK, and this is quite an interesting matchup for me. SK have made big changes, and so have Rogue. And SK's changes are probably the best ones, I think, in their mindset. They've got a solid mid lane that they're keeping the same in Niski. They've got solid top laner in Irrelevant, who's been pushing for the top of this league for a while. And they've kept their aggressive jungler trying to make plays for them. alongside that core 3. The big changes are their entire bot lane. DOS and X-Kick are out, and in comes 2 Korean Challenger League players who, let's be honest, second and third team-based results in the ECL, which is fair enough, quite good, but they're not the pinnacle of that league, firstly. Should point that out. From the few games that I did see from versus against T1, maybe not. Not the best, honestly. But hey, it is what it is. What I'd say is, pools will be exhausted, I think probably is the best way to observe how they played. They're not very, I would say, diverse in pool players, but it's 2 Korean players coming into a team that's fairly, I'd say, English-based speakers, is going to possibly cause some issues between top side map and the bottom side map in terms of communicating and playing together. But again, don't know how long they've been practicing together. Don't know properly when they've all grouped up and started scrimming. Could have been ages ago, as soon as the split ended, or it could have been as soon as a couple of weeks ago when they was first posted pictures of. Who knows? Regardless of that, they've come in, they made changes, but is it good enough? And will the cohesion be there in an opening short split, shall we say? On the other side, Rogue, the team I possibly expected to make changes coming into summer, have not made any, which is kind of mad, giving faith to their players. Rogue, so this is an interesting story. Rogue are weird this year. They had a shitty 2023 on the initial rebrand, or was it still Koi? Don't remember. Either way, they did bad. Coming into 24, massive roster change-ups, and everything kept coming back. The old Rogue of Rogue time haunting this lineup. I think the big important thing to note is they've kept the same roster, but what they did in spring was try to showcase a new style. Early game focuses with drafts aimed to snowball. Now, realistically speaking, unable to really form many snowballs and get them going. However, they did beat G2. Probably the only team that can still beat G2 with their style. And I'm going to be honest, some of the picks they showed, fairly unique compared to the rest of the league. Larson was a bit more stepping away from control mages. Went to the likes of Tristana, TF as well, AD. He tried to play the split push siege style. Granted, it didn't work out for them, but he was still trying to adapt and make his pool wider, make himself a better player. And I think people don't necessarily notice that Rogue were more experimental rather than trying to win the split. I think they were trying to win, but they weren't really successful or didn't understand how to play their comps yet. Keeping the same roster allows them to build up more synergy, allows them to understand the comps that they want to play better, and genuinely perform at a higher level. I think this is what Rogue do better, the textbook style of just sticking, building cohesion, understanding more, and going from there, compared to, fuck it, we'll toss money at these big expensive players and bring them into the league, why not? Which is the Common Corp style for this split. Anyway, enough said about that. My prediction's a Rogue win. I think the issue for SK will be the synergy factor that Rogue kind of have a bit more of. Sure, SK tend to beat Rogue, even though they lost the last week of... They went 1-1 last day of LEC spring, deciding who went into playoffs, actually, ironically. But yeah, I think that this matchup as a whole, bot side will be a bit shaky for SK. Rogue probably looking to showcase their new styles, showcase what they've been practicing in the off-season, and realistically looking to transition into wins. An easier one for me. BDS versus Vitality. BDS stayed the same. Considering all the shakiness that this team's had, they're staying the same and keeping that core roster. Kind of surprising. Versus Vitality, who, let's be honest, have made one major change. Douglas out, Linkus in, and this is a huge one. Because Linkus is a player that Mac and Pad were trying to get into Mad Lions. Before, obviously, they moved over to Vitality. They've had a couple of splits, and finally they get to bring him to the LEC and get to play some big boy games, shall we say. He's kind of been touted as a player to watch that teams realistically should be fearful of. He's the type of guy that will play aggressive. I mean, his favourite champions is Rengar and Nidalee, alongside Lee Sin, sorry. He plays well. Looking at his record right now, played on Carmine Corp Blue, who made it to the spring main event in the EMA Masters. LPL won the league. A guy that's been wanted for a while, finally obtained, coming into the LEC, and I'm really interested to see how well he performs as a whole. Personally speaking, it does provide a new look to Vitality. As for their opponents, BDS, we've kind of discussed. How do I think this one will go? I think Vitality will win. That's a simple way to word it. I think that, personally speaking, the Vitality core staying the same, very strong. You've got a lot of influence from the Mad Lion style hitting into it. Plus VTO, solid mid lane player by the way. Just makes this team a hell of a lot nicer to look at. And realistically speaking, I can't actually wait for them to take to the Rift for this weekend, which is why I've gone for them. And we get into our fourth game of the day. Fifth if you're classing AA as the first, you know how it is. G2 versus MDK, Mad Lions Koi. It's an interesting start, and MDK, a team that obviously came into the last split looking to win it all after a strong winter. And spring they kind of faltered heavily during the regular season. They did slowly bring it back, but they didn't look their usual aggressive selves. Alioya looked to be underperforming, and as a whole, the team struggled. And I think this split, with no changes, either team staying the exact same, can you blame them? Kind of looking for something new, something revitalized. The meta shifts, you know it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a bloody early game, and I like that overall for these two teams, as G2 tend to bring something unique to the split, and I think that style will certainly make this a very, very competitive game. Oh boy. Because this should be where teams tend to test things a little more. G2 especially. Qualified already for season finals. They don't really need to care. 2 championship wins. And I kind of wanted to take this time, like, in my previous recording, if you don't know, this is my second attempt at recording it. Audio was absolutely crappy, so I'm doing the dedicated thing of recording it yet again. Simply put, I broke down how the championship points, the season finals championship points mean so much for. G2 won 2 splits. If they win the third, it means that 5 of the 6 slots are based on championship points rather than championship wins. G2 have already taken away 2, so there's only 4 slots for championship points right now. Which means wherever you finish in this split is massive compared to, say, auto-qualifying because you won the split. I think that a lot of these teams like Rogue, Carmine Corp as well, looking to either win it or come damn near close. G2 probably will take this split a little bit easier, knowing full well that they've qualified, knowing full well that they don't really need to care too much, and probably will experiment like they usually do. I think that that's something that you need to understand about G2 coming into summer compared to, say, winter. They don't really care. That's the easy way to word it. MDK, on the other hand, a solid winter split into a playoff 4th, 5th, I forget where they actually finished, in spring, almost guarantees them season finals. Same with Fnatic. I think they're also qualified for season finals. That's something quite huge that you may not realize. That some teams who are already qualified for season finals take it a little easier. Just experiment. And that's an issue with the format of the LEC now. But hey, it is what it is. I think that, to be honest, this game will probably go to G2. Though it's technically, for me, a nothing game that means absolutely nothing to either side. And regardless, it is what it is. Let's just move on, shall we? It's rapid fire Randy time. The remaining 2 days of action, let's get through this right now. We've got BDS versus Team Heretics. I've gone with BDS. Rogue Vitality, I've gone with Vitality. MDK Carmine Corp, I've gone with MDK. Fnatic GX, I've gone with Fnatic, and G2 versus SK, I've gone with G2. Day number 3, we kick it off with Fnatic Vitality. I've gone with Vitality winning this one. G2 play not then, it's actually Giant X versus SK, I've gone with Giant X. BDS versus G2, I've gone with BDS. Carmine Corp versus Rogue, I have gone with Carmine Corp. And Team Heretics versus MDK, I have gone with the Mother Trucking MDK to round us out for today. This is my actual second take in doing this entire video, because the first time my audio was crap. Hopefully the audio is a lot better than what it would normally be in a video of mine. Regardless of that, thank you very much for joining me. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Also, put a comment if you even like anything. What's your predictions? Do stuff like that. I'm going off script from my normal outro. Subscribe if you're new around here, if you want to, and I will see you guys on the Sunday for the matchup of the week. Don't want to miss it.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss that stack, taking